The edge of the map. The galaxy was old, older than memory, older than most stars could count. Civilizations had risen, burned bright, and fallen to dust. Yet one thing had never changed. Every star chart, every navigation system, every galactic map ended at the same place. A blank zone, a space with no name, human space. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, thousands of alien voices filled the air, discussing trade routes, peace treaties, and exploration missions. The hall was bright with banners of 100 worlds, but one young explorer sat quietly, staring at a giant holographic map that floated in the air. His name was Rintal. He was curious, too curious, some said. His species, the Valari, were known for caution, for obeying rules. But Rintal was different. His eyes kept tracing the glowing lines of the map until they reached the thick red border that marked the end of known space. Beyond that line, the hologram showed nothing but darkness. He frowned. "Why does the map stop there?" he whispered. An older council member sitting nearby turned to him sharply. "Don't ask that question, boy," he said, his voice trembling. "That's the edge of human space. Everyone knows better than to ask why." Rintal blinked in surprise. "Humans, but they disappeared, didn't they? No one's seen them for hundreds of years." The old alien looked away, and that's how it should stay. Later that night, Rintal sat alone in his ship, the Venture Star, parked in orbit above the council planet. He stared again at the blank space on his personal star map. Something about it didn't feel right. He zoomed in on the border, comparing it to older maps. His heart skipped. The line had moved. Just slightly, but enough for him to notice. The blank zone was growing. What could make a whole region of space expand? He wondered. The ship's AI, a soft metallic voice, replied, "Unknown phenomenon. Expansion rate. Minimal but increasing yearly. No records explain this anomaly." Rintal leaned back in his chair, eyes full of wonder and fear. Maybe it's time someone found out. He didn't file a flight plan. He didn't tell the council. At dawn, his engines roared to life, and the Venture Star slipped quietly into the deep void, heading toward the edge of the galactic map. Days passed. The stars thinned out. Space grew darker, colder. He was far beyond any trade route now. The last station had faded behind him like a memory. "AI, how far to human space?" he asked. "2 light days," the voice replied. "Warning. All recorded ships entering that zone have failed to return." Rintal smiled faintly. "Let's make history." As he approached the border, strange things began to happen. His sensors flickered. Power levels dropped for no reason. The navigation display scrambled, showing impossible coordinates. Even the stars outside seemed wrong, like they were bending, watching him. The AI's tone changed, nervous, almost afraid. "Caution, spatial interference detected. Source, unknown. Recommend immediate retreat." Rintal ignored it. He pushed forward, hands tight on the controls, and then he crossed the line. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the entire ship shuddered. The lights dimmed. Every system went dark. "AI?" No response. He floated in silence, surrounded by absolute black. Then, slowly, something appeared outside his window. Shapes. Massive, silent, and cold. At first he thought they were asteroids. But as his eyes adjusted, he realized they were structures. Metallic giants floating in formation. Space stations. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands, all dead. No signals, no heat, no movement. Or so he thought. A faint blue glow appeared on one of the distant stations. Then another. And another. Within moments, a web of light spread across the void, forming patterns too perfect to be random. "Impossible," Rintal whispered. "Who built all this?" Suddenly, his comms crackled alive, flooding the cabin with static. He jumped, heart racing. A voice came through, human, calm, and cold. "Unidentified vessel, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourself." Rintal froze. His mouth went dry. "This is Rintal of the Valari Exploration Fleet. I mean no harm." The voice paused. "Valari? You're a long way from home, explorer," he swallowed. "I wanted to learn what happened to the humans. Why the galaxy avoids this place." The silence stretched until it felt like a physical weight. Then the voice said quietly, "You shouldn't have come here." The transmission ended. The stars outside flickered, and then his ship was surrounded by faint blue light. Rintal's last memory before everything went black was of enormous shadows moving between the stars, Ships bigger than mountains, silent and unseen. The blue light swallowed his vessel whole. Then there was only darkness. Crossing the line, darkness. Cold. Silence. Rintal slowly opened his eyes. The cabin lights flickered back to life one by one. He gasped for air, his chest heavy. The ship was still there, but something was different. The stars outside looked wrong, twisted, scattered like broken glass. Space itself seemed alive. AI? He whispered, voice shaking. No answer. He checked the controls. Every system was offline. The engine was cold, comms dead, sensors blind. Yet somehow, the ship was still moving, pulled forward by an invisible force. Through the front window, he saw the massive shapes again, those strange structures floating in the void. Now he could see their full size. They were not stations. They were fortresses, black and silent, each larger than a moon. His heart pounded. Are these human? He muttered to himself. Suddenly, the ship's screens came alive. Lines of code flashed faster than he could read. Then a single message appeared in bold red letters. Welcome to human space. Before he could react, the ship's engines roared to life on their own. The autopilot engaged without his command. Stop! He shouted, trying to override the controls, but the system ignored him. The Venture Star turned slowly and started heading straight toward one of the fortresses. It was shaped like a spearhead, glowing faintly with blue energy at the edges. The closer he got, the more he saw. Cannons, defense towers, and strange mechanical wings folded along its sides. Then came the voice again. Calm, human. Unidentified vessel. Power down all systems. Do not attempt to escape. Rintal froze. I'm not escaping. I'm here in peace, no reply. The ship kept moving forward, guided by invisible hands. He looked out the window and saw lights forming around the fortress. Circles of glowing blue symbols. A tractor beam. The Venture Star was caught. Slowly, it was pulled into a docking bay the size of a city. The moment his ship landed, the cabin door hissed open. But Rintal hadn't opened it. A group of dark figures stepped inside. Their steps were slow and heavy. Their armor was black, their faces hidden behind helmets with glowing visors. Humans. One of them raised a small device. Breathe normally. You're safe now, said a deep male voice. Rintal's throat tightened. Safe? You dragged my ship across space. The man tilted his head slightly, then gestured for Rintal to follow. He hesitated, but something in their calm movements told him to obey. They led him through a long corridor made of dark metal. Lights pulsed along the floor, and strange humming sounds echoed from deep inside the structure. Everything felt alive, yet cold, like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Finally, they entered a wide room. In the center stood a tall man with gray hair and a black uniform marked with a silver emblem. His eyes were sharp, his expression calm but unreadable. Welcome, explorer, the man said. I am Captain Hale. Rintal swallowed. You're human. Hale smiled faintly. Last time I checked. He walked slowly around Rintal, studying him like a scientist examining a rare creature. You are Valari, yes? Not many of your kind come this far. In fact, no one ever does. Rintal forced himself to speak. I didn't come to fight. I came to learn. To understand why your space is forbidden, why every map ends here. Hale stopped walking and faced him. His expression grew serious. Because Rintal, what lies beyond this border isn't meant to be found. The alien frowned. Beyond, you mean outside human space? Yes. Hale's tone was low, heavy. There are things out there older than any star chart. Things that should never wake. Rintal shook his head. But the galaxy deserves to know. The galaxy, Hale interrupted, is alive because it doesn't know. Rintal stared at him, confused. Are you saying you're protecting us? Hale didn't answer directly. He turned toward a window that showed the stars beyond. Look closely, he said. Rintal stepped forward. His eyes widened. Out there, between the scattered stars, floated massive black walls stretching across the void. They weren't natural. They were artificial. Huge barriers made of energy and metal. What are those? He whispered. Containment fields, Hale said softly. We built them centuries ago. To keep something in. Rintal's heart pounded. Something? What could be that dangerous? Hale looked at him, his gray eyes cold. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Suddenly an alarm echoed through the room. Red lights flashed across the walls. A robotic voice spoke over the intercom. Unidentified anomaly detected near Sector 9. Containment field integrity compromised. Hale cursed under his breath. It's starting again. Rintal stepped back. What's happening? Hale's voice was calm but dark. You wanted to know why no one crosses into human space. You're about to find out. He turned toward a nearby officer. Lock down all external stations. Get the Black Sun fleet online. Rintal stared at him, terrified. What is Black Sun? Hale's reply was cold as steel. Our last line of defense. The fortress shook as distant explosions echoed through space. The stars outside dimmed, swallowed by something massive and unseen. Rintal gripped the railing, eyes wide with fear. What's out there? Hale looked into the darkness beyond the window and said only one thing. The reason the galactic map stops at our border. The silent stations. When Rintal woke up again, everything was white. The walls were smooth and bright, humming quietly like the inside of a living machine. His wrists were free, but his body felt heavy. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then the door slid open with a soft hiss. 2 humans entered, soldiers in black armor, faces hidden behind glass visors. Between them walked a woman in a dark gray coat. Her voice was calm, but there was something sharp beneath it. Good, you're awake. Rintal sat up slowly. Where am I? What is this place? The woman stopped beside his bed. You're on station 149. Human command sector. My name is Dr. Lin. She looked at a tablet in her hand. You're very lucky, Explorer. Most who cross the border don't survive long enough to ask questions. Rintal frowned. Then why am I still alive? Dr. Lin's eyes met his. Because Captain Hale wants to talk to you. The walk to the command room was long. Rintal followed silently, guarded by the 2 soldiers. The corridors were wide, built of dark steel. Through the windows he saw space, endless and black, dotted with the lights of hundreds of massive stations floating in silence. Everywhere he looked, there were machines, the huge, ancient-looking, covered in markings he didn't recognize. Some seemed broken. Others still glowed faintly as if waiting for orders. The deeper they walked, the more Rintal realized this wasn't one station. It was a network, a fortress stretching across space. Finally, they entered a vast control room. Holographic displays filled the air, maps, energy readings, and thousands of red warning symbols. Captain Hale stood at the center, hands behind his back, staring out a massive window. He didn't turn around when Rintal entered. You've caused quite a stir, Explorer, he said. Most of the galaxy has forgotten we exist. I prefer it that way. Rintal hesitated. I didn't come to cause trouble. I came to learn. Why do you hide yourselves? Why the silence? Hale turned slowly. His face looked tired, not cruel. We don't hide, Rintal. We watch. Watch? Rintal echoed. Watch what? Everything, Hale replied quietly. Every fleet, every empire, every war. We've seen you all rise and fall over and over again, but we do not interfere, unless we must. Rintal stepped closer to the window. Outside he could see the stations again, stretching across the void in perfect lines. They look abandoned, he said softly. They're not, Hale replied. They're sleeping, just like what they guard. Rintal turned sharply. What do they guard? Hale's eyes darkened. The end of everything. He tapped a few commands on a console. The window flickered, turning into a massive holographic display. It showed the galaxy, bright and alive. But beyond human space there was a darker area, a region completely black with no stars, no signals, nothing. Do you see this void? Hale asked. That's not empty space. That's what's left after the war. Rintal's breath caught. War? With who? Hale shook his head. Not with who. With what? He zoomed in on the image. The blackness pulsed like a living thing, and for a second Rintal thought he saw a movement, a ripple in the dark, like a shadow trying to escape. His blood ran cold. What is that? The enemy we fought long before your people learned to use fire, Hale said. Something that doesn't belong to this galaxy. We defeated it, but we never destroyed it, Rintal whispered. So the border exists to keep it inside? Hale nodded. The galactic map ends at our space because beyond it lies something you must never awaken. That's why we built the silent stations, to contain it. A sudden alarm broke the silence. Red lights flashed across the command room. Dr. Lin rushed to Hale's side. Sir, we're detecting strange readings from Outpost Theta 9. Energy levels are spiking. Hale's face hardened. Put it on screen. The display shifted to show one of the outer stations. It floated quietly in the dark, surrounded by mist. Then suddenly a bright red flash tore through it. The image shook. A deep echoing sound filled the air. It wasn't just noise. It felt like a voice. "Signal confirmed," Dr. Lin said, her voice trembling. "It's coming from the containment zone." Rintal felt his stomach twist. "Is that it?" Hale didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed on the screen. Then he said softly, "It's waking up." The sound grew louder, a low hum that made the floor vibrate. Rintal's head hurt as if the sound was inside his mind. He saw flashes in his vision. Stars burning, ships breaking apart, something vast moving through the void. He clutched his head. "What is happening?" Hale placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're hearing it. Most species can't. It speaks to the mind before it strikes." Rintal looked up at him, terrified. "Then why aren't you afraid?" Hale's expression was grim. "Because fear is useless now. What matters is time." He turned to his officers. "Activate the defense grid. Wake the silent stations." "Yes, sir," voices replied. Outside, the darkness came alive. The once dead stations began to glow blue. Massive cannons unfolded. Giant shields of light formed between them, locking together like puzzle pieces. Rintal watched in awe. "You had all this. Waiting?" Hale nodded. "We've been waiting for centuries. Waiting for this moment." The alarms grew louder. The hum became a roar, and far beyond the stations the blackness began to move. Something ancient was rising. The forgotten war. The darkness outside the station began to move. From the command window, Rintal watched in shock as stars blinked out, swallowed by something huge and shapeless. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even a creature. It was like the space itself was alive, twisting and folding as if trying to escape the light. "Containment field integrity dropping to 60%, shouted Dr. Lin. "Activate all defensive arrays," Hale ordered, his voice steady. "No mistakes," Rintal turned to him. "What is that thing? What's happening?" Hale's eyes stayed on the window. "You wanted to know why the galaxy fears this border? You're looking at the reason." The alarms blared again. The screens flashed red. Outside, beams of blue light shot from the massive silent stations, forming a glowing net around the dark zone. For a few moments, the shadow slowed, then stopped. Dr. Lin exhaled. "Containment restored. For now." Hale turned toward Rintal. "Follow me," he said quietly. They walked through the command decks until they reached a long corridor. At the end stood a sealed door with an old human flag painted across it, faded, almost forgotten. Hale pressed his hand to the scanner. The door slid open with a deep metallic groan. Inside was a huge room filled with holograms, relics, and glowing screens. Old star maps floated in the air, showing hundreds of red zones across the galaxy, all erased from current records. Rintal's eyes widened. "What is this place?" Hale looked around the room with a heavy expression. "A museum," he said. "Of a war no one remembers." He tapped a console and a hologram came to life. It showed burning worlds, broken fleets, and enormous shapes moving between stars. Things with eyes of fire and voices like thunder. "The enemy came from beyond the galactic rim," Hale said quietly. "They were not like anything we'd seen before. They didn't want land or power. They wanted consumption." Rintal's skin chilled. "They devoured entire systems?" "Yes," Hale nodded. "Stars, planets, people, all turned to energy. We called them the Abyssal Swarm." The hologram shifted, showing human fleets standing against the darkness. Ships the size of continents, entire armies of light and metal. Rintal watched as one giant ship exploded, lighting up the void. "Humanity fought for 1,000 years, Hale continued. "We were alone. The other races were too young then, too afraid. But we couldn't let the swarm spread." Rintal's voice trembled. "And did you win?" Hale's face darkened. "We survived." He walked to another display, an old holo recording. A human woman appeared, wearing a uniform like Hale's but older, scarred. Her voice echoed softly. "This message is for whoever finds it. We sealed the rift, but the cost was everything. Earth is gone. Mars is silent. Humanity will not rebuild. We will stand guard forever." The image flickered out. Rintal stood frozen. You sacrificed your home?" Hale nodded slowly. "We erased ourselves from the galaxy to keep the secret safe. We became ghosts, watchers behind the curtain." Rintal's voice cracked. All this time, everyone thought you vanished. And we let them, Hale said. It was better that way. If the galaxy knew what we fought, they'd try to explore it. They always do. He turned toward the window again, his eyes hard. But lately, the swarm has been stirring again. Dr. Lin's voice came over the intercom. Captain, energy spikes increasing. The creature is testing the field again. Hale pressed a button on his wrist console. Understood. I'm on my way. He faced Rintal one last time. You asked for the truth. Now you carry it. But remember this, knowledge is dangerous. If you return home, do not tell them what you saw. Promise me. Rintal hesitated. I can't promise silence when lives could be at risk. Hale's eyes softened for a moment. Then may your courage protect you better than ours did. The station trembled again. Lights flickered. Through the window, the darkness pulsed like a living heartbeat. Dr. Lin rushed in. Captain, the outer defense grid just collapsed. We've lost contact with 3 stations. Hale clenched his fists. Deploy Black Sun, she hesitated. Sir, are you sure? The last activation, do it, Hale snapped. Rintal turned toward them. What is Black Sun? Hale met his gaze. Our last weapon. A star killer. It burned space itself. Rintal stepped back, horrified. You'll destroy everything. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. If that's what it takes to keep it contained. Yes. The room shook violently as energy surged through the fortress. Outside, the stations realigned, glowing brighter than ever. The light spread between them like fire through glass. Then the stars vanished. The entire region became pure white, brighter than any sun. The hum grew louder. The station's metal walls groaned. Rintal fell to the ground, covering his head. Then, silence. The light faded. The blackness was gone. Dr. Lin checked her screen. Containment restored. The rift is sealed again. Hale let out a slow breath. Good. How many stations lost? 14. Maybe more. Rintal stood up, still shaking. You burned half your defense line. Hale nodded. And bought us a few more years. Rintal stared at the stars outside. Peaceful again, but empty. Why keep fighting? Why not ask the council for help? Hale looked at him sadly. Because they wouldn't believe. And if they did, they'd come here with fleets and curiosity. And wake it up again. Rintal fell silent. For the first time, he understood the weight humans carried. Alone, forgotten, guarding a darkness no one else even knew existed. The breach the calm didn't last. For 2 days, the silent stations stood quiet. The stars glowed softly again. Rintal watched from the observation deck, trying to believe it was over. But deep down, he knew it wasn't. Captain Hale hadn't left the command room once. Dr. Lin barely spoke. Engineers worked in silence, repairing damaged systems and restoring lost power. Rintal finally asked, You think it'll come back, don't you? Hale didn't look up from his console. It never stopped. That night, Rintal couldn't sleep. The hum of the station felt different, heavier, slower. He walked to the window and saw strange lights far beyond the containment line. Faint, but moving. He called the AI system. Show me the outer perimeter feed. The screen blinked to life. What he saw made his skin crawl. The blackness wasn't still anymore. It was spreading, like smoke through water seeping into normal space, and this time it was silent. No signals, no sound, just movement. Then came the whisper. A faint voice in his head, calm, cold, almost human. Why do you hide, little one? Rintal froze. He looked around the empty room. Who's there? The voice continued, soft but endless. You hear us, just like they did. You came to find truth. We will show it to you. Pain shot through his skull. He fell to his knees. The lights flickered and the whisper turned into screams, thousands of them fading and rising at once. Then suddenly, silence. When he opened his eyes, the stars were red. Alarms screamed through the entire station. Dr. Lin's voice echoed over the intercom. Anomaly breach. Containment field collapsing in sectors 5 through 12. Rintal ran to the command room. The screens showed chaos. Dark waves of energy pouring through the barrier, swallowing entire stations. Each one blinked out of existence like candles in a storm. Evacuate outpost Alpha to Gamma, Hale ordered. Get everyone back to the core line. A young officer shouted, Sir, it's spreading too fast. It's eating subspace itself. Hale's eyes were like steel. Then we'll burn it. The humans began to move with terrifying precision. Fleets launched from hidden hangars. Massive ships emerged from the shadows, black, sharp, glowing faintly with blue fire. They looked like floating cities, each one bore a single symbol, a white sun with black rays. Rintal whispered, "Black sun." Hale nodded. "Our last weapon." The fleet ignited their engines, lighting up space like dawn. For a brief moment, the darkness seemed to shrink back. Dr. Lin looked up from her console. "Energy levels charging. 30%, 50. Hale raised his hand. "Fire when ready." Outside, beams of white light cut through the void, hundreds of them. The energy burned through space itself, tearing at the darkness. For a moment, it worked. The black mass screamed, not with sound, but through every mind that could feel it. The galaxy shook. Then the light faded. Dr. Lin's voice trembled. The creature adapted. "It's absorbing the energy." Rintal's heart sank. "It's feeding on your weapons." Hale slammed his fist on the console. "All ships fall back. Fall back to secondary line." But the darkness was faster. It moved like liquid thought, reaching across light years in seconds. One by one, the outer stations vanished, swallowed whole. "Sir," Dr. Lin said, "we've lost 90% of the defense grid." Hale took a deep breath. "Then there's only one thing left to do." He turned to Rintal. "You need to leave." Rintal shook his head. "Leave? No!" "You need help. The galaxy must see this." "That's exactly why you have to go," Hale said firmly. "Someone has to tell them what's coming. Maybe they'll listen this time." Rintal stared at him, torn. "And what about you?" Hale gave a faint smile. "We'll hold the line. That's what we've always done." Outside, the remaining human fleet reformed into a circle. The ships linked their energy cores together, creating a massive glowing ring in space. Dr. Lin whispered, "They're forming the Nova Gate." Rintal frowned. "What's that?" Hale's voice was steady. "A self-sustaining detonation. We'll collapse the rift before it spreads." Rintal's voice broke. "That'll kill you all." Hale nodded once. "Yes." The lights flickered again. The station shook violently. The voice returned, echoing in Rintal's head. "You burn so bright, yet you always end the same way." He shouted, "Get out of my mind." Hale looked at him. "You hear it too, don't you?" "Yes," Rintal gasped. It's talking." Hale's face hardened. "Then it's awake." The fleet's lights grew brighter and brighter until they were blinding. The entire sky looked like fire. Rintal shielded his eyes. Dr. Lin's final words came through the comms. "Energy at critical. Ready for detonation." Hale's voice followed, calm and resolute. "Humanity stands. Always." The transmission cut. Then, silence. A moment later, the stars exploded. The shockwave rolled through space, tearing the blackness apart. Every trace of the dark mass vanished. Every signal, every station. Gunnar Rintal's ship was thrown light years away by the blast. When he regained control, there was nothing left. Just a vast, empty void. He sat there in silence, staring at the blank space on his map. Where human space had once been, there was now only a hole. No signals, no stars. No life. The border still existed, but now it was endless. Rintal whispered, "They did it. They really did it." Then his AI flickered back online, warning high-energy residue detected. "Origin, human space, faint transmission incoming." Rintal's heart raced. "Play it." Through the static, a single human voice spoke, calm, quiet, almost peaceful. "Humanity endures. Do not come after us," and then the transmission ended. The war in the dark, the explosion that ended human space, was seen across the galaxy. For a moment, even the stars seemed to flicker. Then came silence. Every major species watched their sensors fill with static, their communication relays go dead, and the blank zone on the galactic map grow darker than ever before. The Council declared it an unexplained cosmic event. But explorers whispered something else. They said the humans were gone, again, and maybe this time, forever. Weeks later, on a small outpost near the Valari border, Rintal stood on the observation deck, staring into the void where human space used to be. The edges still glowed faintly, like a scar in the sky. His AI companion hovered beside him. Transmission activity, none. Radiation levels remain unstable. Rintal sighed. "I know, I just can't stop looking. They gave everything and no one even knows." He had sent messages to the Galactic Council, begging them to listen, to prepare. Most were ignored. A few believed him, but they called the humans myth. The galaxy was moving on, pretending nothing had happened. Then, one night, the signal came. A weak pulse hit every sensor on Rintal's ship. A pattern. 3 long beats, 2 short. He froze. That's a code. The AI processed it. Human distress frequency. Source unknown. He leaned closer. Impossible. There's nothing left there. The pulse repeated, growing stronger. Then a faint voice followed, cracked, distorted, but human. If anyone hears this, we are not gone. The war continues. Stay away from the dark. Rintal's heart pounded. They're alive. He jumped into his pilot's seat. AI, lock onto the signal. We're going back. The AI hesitated. Entering the void is not advised. I don't care, Rintal said. They saved us. Now it's our turn. His ship crossed the old border of human space. Now just endless emptiness. No stars, no planets. Not even dust. The engines hummed softly like whispers in a tomb. Hours passed with no sound, no light, no sense of direction. Then suddenly he saw movement. Something massive drifted out of the blackish ship, but not like before. It was half-broken, scarred, glowing faintly from within. Its hull bore the faded symbol of the white sun, Black Sun Command. Rintal gasped. It's one of them. He approached slowly, scanning for life. Energy signatures detected, said the AI. Minimal but stable. Rintal docked his vessel and entered the derelict ship. Inside, silence. The halls were burnt and twisted, the air heavy with dust and old smoke. Everywhere he saw signs of battle, claw marks, melted steel, broken weapons. Then in the command chamber, he found him. Captain Hale. The human commander sat slumped in his chair. His armor cracked, his eyes dim but alive. When Rintal approached, Hale's voice was barely a whisper. You came back. Rintal knelt beside him. I got your signal. I thought you were gone. Hale managed a faint smile. Most of us are, but not all. What happened? Rintal asked. You detonated the Nova Gate. It destroyed everything. Not everything, Hale said. The swarm adapted faster than we expected. We didn't stop it. We only slowed it. Rintal's chest tightened. Then the war isn't over? Hale shook his head weakly. No, it never ended. We moved into the dark, fought where the light couldn't reach. He reached for a small metal cube beside him. Take this. Rintal hesitated. What is it? Our history, Hale said. Everything we know, about the war, about the swarm, about what's coming next. He coughed, his voice fading. Tell them. Tell the galaxy to stay away. If they cross that border again, there won't be anything left to save. Rintal's hands trembled as he took the cube. Come with me, Captain. We can save you. Hale looked out the cracked window into the blackness beyond. For a moment his eyes lit up with something like pride. You still don't understand, Explorer. There's no saving us. Humanity's already where it needs to be. What do you mean? Hale smiled faintly. We're not defending the galaxy anymore. We are the line. Wherever the dark spreads, we follow it. Then as his voice faded, he said one last thing. Humanity endures. Remember that. And with that, he was gone. Rintal returned to his ship, holding the cube close. He wanted to cry, but no tears came. The stars outside flickered faintly, not from light, but from motion. He saw shadows twisting between them, quiet, fast, purposeful. Then in the darkness, he saw them. Human ships. Hundreds of them, black as night, drifting silently through the void. They were still fighting. Out there, unseen, keeping the galaxy safe from a war no one else even remembered. Rintal whispered, They're still out there, fighting in the dark. As he left the border, he sent one last message to the Council. The humans did not die. They became the wall between us and the end. Do not enter their space. Do not disturb the silence, because that silence is what keeps us alive. The blank zone years passed. The galactic maps were redrawn, new colonies marked, new trade lines opened, but no one ever updated the empty space on the edge. It stayed blank, cold black and silent. Human space. Most citizens thought it was just an old myth, a place explorers made up to scare recruits. Only a few still remembered the stories. And one of them was Rintal. He was older now. His fur had turned silver and his eyes carried the quiet look of someone who had seen too much. He lived alone on a small research station orbiting the border. Every night he looked at the same view. the endless dark where the humans once stood. The council had dismissed his warnings long ago. They said his reports were emotional exaggeration. But deep down, Rintal knew better. Sometimes when the night was silent, his sensors picked up faint distortions, tiny pulses gone before they could be recorded. No pattern, no signal, just whispers in the void, and sometimes he could swear he heard a voice. One night, as he reviewed data from the outer sectors, his console beeped. A weak reading. Something moving. AI, he said. Run a scan on grid A17. Scan complete, the AI replied. Energy fluctuation detected. Origin unknown. Rintal frowned. Show it. The screen lit up. There, on the edge of the map, a cluster of faint lights flickered. Not random. They formed a shape. A symbol. He leaned closer, heart pounding. It was a handprint. A human handprint made of stars. Rintal whispered, No, it can't be. He stared as the pattern glowed brighter for a few seconds, then faded into darkness. The map returned to its usual silence. But something inside him changed. Later, he sat by the window, speaking softly into his recorder. To anyone who finds this message, the humans were real. They didn't vanish. They became our shield. Every time we look at this blank zone and feel safe, it's because they are still out there fighting in the dark. He paused, his eyes on the stars. They paid a price we'll never understand. But maybe one day, when we're brave enough, we'll thank them properly. He turned off the recorder and smiled sadly. Outside, the void seemed peaceful again. Elsewhere in the galaxy, strange things began to happen. Ships traveling near the border reported strange flashes, blue and white like lightning trapped in space. Sensors caught ghost signals that appeared for seconds before vanishing. Each one carried the same fragment of code. Project Black Sun, status active. The council ignored them, calling it sensor noise. But soldiers along the outer colonies started to whisper new legends. They said that sometimes, when you look too long into the dark, you see shadows moving between the stars. And if you listen carefully, you can hear voices in the static. Voices that say, stand fast, voices that sound human. Rintal's health began to fade. Still, every night he watched the border. The blank zone had become more than mystery. It was a promise. On his final evening, he sat by the window, a cup of warm tea in his hands. The AI spoke softly. Power levels are stable. Would you like me to begin rest cycle? He smiled faintly. Not yet. I just want to see them one more time. For a long while, nothing happened. Only the quiet hum of the station filled the air. Then, just as his eyes began to close, light shimmered on the edge of the void. A single human ship appeared. Black, massive, silent. Its hull glowed with blue lines that looked like veins of light. It drifted close, almost invisible against the stars. Rintal's heart trembled, he whispered, You're still there. The ship turned slightly, and for a brief moment its lights formed a message in human Morse code. Rintal's translator read it aloud. The line holds. Then, as silently as it had come, the ship faded into the dark. Rintal smiled, closed his eyes and whispered, Thank you. His console continued to blink softly. The last data log on his screen recorded the message. Contact with human fleet, confirmed. Years later, explorers from other worlds found Rintal's abandoned station. They played his recordings. They studied his maps. And though no one could prove what he'd seen, they noticed something strange. Every map in the galaxy still stopped at the same place. The blank zone remained. Untouched, unexplored, untamed. And deep within that darkness, faint lights still moved. Too fast. Too precise to be random. Watching, guarding, waiting. Narrators close. Final ending. The galactic map still stops at human space. And everyone still knows better than to ask why. Because somewhere out there, beyond the edge of sight, humanity is still standing in the dark, keeping the rest of the galaxy safe from what sleeps beyond the stars. Humanity endures always. Echoes beyond the line, the galaxy had moved on. Generations passed since the name humanity was last spoken aloud. The council banned all expeditions into the blank zone. It was written into law. No ship shall cross the edge of mapped space. The cost of curiosity is extinction, but rules have never stopped explorers. On the planet Zenith Prime, a young scientist named Arlen Voss studied ancient star maps. He had grown up hearing the old stories. of the humans, of the dark, of the watchers who never returned. Most people laughed at those tales, but Arlen didn't. He worked for the Galactic Archives, scanning old data fragments from forgotten wars. One night, while decoding a broken Valari transmission, he found something strange. The file was ancient, over 2 centuries old, marked as Rintal Log 27. The voice in the recording was weak but clear. "They're still there, guarding us. Don't follow. Don't interfere. But if you ever hear the light calling, it means they've failed." Arlen froze. "The light calling?" he whispered. He played it again. The phrase repeated. "When the light calls, the line has fallen." For days, Arlen couldn't sleep. He stared at the star charts, focusing on the blank zone. No data, no signals, just the cold quiet of forbidden space. Then, one night, his scanners detected something impossible. A pulse, bright, rhythmic, coming directly from the blank zone. He ran the signal through filters, amplifying it. The pulse repeated, more 3 short beats too long. A pattern, not random, not natural. It was the same old human distress code. "SOS," Arlen whispered. "The light, it's calling." He took his small exploration ship, the Arcus, and launched without authorization. His ship AI, Nira, protested immediately. "Warning, Council Decree 709 forbids entry into the blank zone." "I know," Arlen replied, tightening his grip on the controls. "But someone has to know if they're still there." As he crossed the galactic border, the stars began to thin. The sky turned darker, emptier, colder. Then his sensors started glitching. "Nira, report!" "Spatial distortion detected." "Systems degrading," she replied. The ship's lights flickered, but Arlen didn't stop. He had come too far. Finally, the distortion cleared, and he saw them. Dozens of massive structures floated in the void. At first, he thought they were asteroids. Then he saw the markings. Old human architecture, scarred, broken, but unmistakable. Silent stations, Arlen's voice trembled. "By the stars. They're real." The stations drifted slowly, glowing faintly blue, powered by something ancient and dying. And among them, hundreds of dark shapes floated like sleeping giants. Human ships frozen mid-formation. He whispered, "It's a graveyard." Then, a flicker of light. One of the ships, deep within the cluster, powered up. Its engines glowed faintly. A transmission followed, old and cracked with static. "Human command to any receiver." "Black Sun active. Containment compromised." Arlen's heart skipped. Compromised. He looked out the window again. Behind the ships, far beyond the station, something was moving. A distortion. Slow, quiet, enormous. "Nira," he said. "What's that?" The AI processed the readings, then answered, "Unknown mass detected. Estimated size, planetary. Origin, the abyssal zone." Arlen's blood ran cold. That's what they were guarding against. The creature's outline shimmered in the void. Not flesh, not metal, something in between. Its body seemed to bend light itself, swallowing it whole. And for the first time in centuries, the darkness spoke. "You left us in the cold. Now the stars are ours." The voice wasn't in his ears. It was inside his mind. Alarm screamed. Energy reading spiked. "Nira," he shouted. "Get us out of here." "Unable," she replied. Interference. Increasing. Outside, the human ships began to move, automatically. Their dead systems flickered to life, weapons glowing with ancient energy. One by one, their engines ignited. The fleet was waking up. Arlen watched, stunned, as the human ships turned toward the shadow. They moved like a single mind, silent, precise, unstoppable. Old, half-broken vessels standing against a god of darkness. The first beams fired, white light tearing through black space. The creature screamed, and its shadow spread wider, wrapping around the fleet. Arlen's sensors filled with static. Nira's voice broke apart. "Warning!" Energy overload. Containment fields collapsing. The last thing he saw before everything went white was a single human battleship ramming the creature head-on, exploding in a burst brighter than a supernova. Then, silence. Hours later, Arlen woke up drifting through space. Half his ship was gone, the controls fried. But somehow he was still alive. "Nira." "Status," he croaked. "Minimal power." "We are outside the blank zone," she replied weakly. He looked through the cracked window. The stars were back. And the black void? Gone, but the scanners showed something new. In the place where the blank zone used to be, there was now light. Thousands of tiny points, forming patterns across the sky. And at the center of it all, a message written in coded bursts. "We hold the line." Arlen smiled through his tears. "They're still fighting. Even now." He sent a final transmission to the Galactic Council. "This is Arlen Voss. The humans are not gone. They've moved beyond the dark, and they're still protecting us. The blank zone is no longer empty. It's their world now.